866.
Jon Rahm was the day's biggest winner, but LIV Golf, the breakaway tour that's caused a civil war within golf ranks, scored a major victory of its own on Masters weekend, derided as a tour for washed-up former stars and unknowns, a money grab for has-beens and never-wases. They really went after this, but somebody's quite lyrical in this. LIV put 3 players in the top 6: Mickelson, Brooks Koepka, and Patrick Reed, and 12 players made the cut. I think that was 12 out of 17, so that's a pretty good number.
Yep.
Whatever else LIV may be, on this weekend, the breakaway tour came up big. Quote, "We're still the same people," unquote, said Koepka, who held the clubhouse lead for 3 rounds and 3 holes. Quote, "I think that's just manufactured by the media that we can't compete anymore, that we are washed up," unquote.
So much to say about this topic, Richard. First of all, I was really hoping for Brooks Koepka. He's not like my favorite golfer, but that would have really gotten everybody so jazzed up if a LIV golfer had won. It would really have shaken up this whole world. But I think the point of this story is sort of the same, that, like you said, 3 of the top 6 players were LIV golfers. So it's half and half. I think what the first takeaway from the Masters that I have with this, LIV is now officially, they're not like bringing in a lot of new guys. It's kind of set. You know, it's not anywhere competing with the PGA for rankings, for ratings, on TV yet. But what you sort of have is this really good, like, American League versus National League type of potential battle brewing. I mean, this could be the new Ryder Cup. It could be a new situation in which you have your side, you're rooting for one or the other because 1 or 2 of your favorite golfers are on one side. I mean, that's good for the game. That grows the game for sure. Secondly, do you want to know, sort of seeing this, 12 of 17 LIV golfers. There's more than that in LIV. There are 40 golfers in LIV. So a lot of these players weren't in it, weren't invited. So that means that a lot of these PGA players that wouldn't have been in the PGA, if not for LIV creating a lot more of a market size, they got to play in the Masters this year because of that. And some of them did fairly well. So what we predicted, Richard, I mean, I remember this because this is another thing we're in the weeds all the time with. And we sort of saw coming a year and a half ago in October, November, Rival Golf League rumored, then in Bloomberg. And then we didn't know what it would take, what shape it would take. We also thought they would get no golfers at all. We thought they might get 1 or 2 names. They got half the guys, most of the biggest names, to be honest. And then the last point I want to make, this is why I really wanted to avoid doing a whole thing on this because we could do the whole podcast on this. But last point I want to make, Phil Mickelson, that was really awesome to see him get 6 birdies on the back 9 and take 2nd place, like, just last minute. I mean, it's just so good to see that. As Phil is, I'm a right-handed person, but I play golf left-handed. So I really, I look up to Phil, as it were. And so it just, what a weekend. Great for everybody involved. I think great for the sport, great for LIV Golf. It was just, I love Masters weekend so much. It's the best.
Masters weekend is awesome, and always comes around my birthday. But
oh yeah, happy birthday, by the way, Richard.
Thank you. That wasn't meant to, but if it's Masters weekend, if it's my birthday, I know it's Masters weekend and Easter close by.
Well, I just want to say, because I wanted to say happy birthday to you, and it came on. Your birthday was Saturday, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I didn't see any social media until Monday, and I was like, God, I missed Richard's birthday. I'm so sorry. And I still haven't said anything to you, so I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
Happy birthday, man.
And thank you. And it just ruined my weekend, all weekend. I just sort of, huddled up in bed, wondering when you'd call.
I'm sorry.
So I feel better now.
But you had the Masters to kind of make you.
Exactly. No, thank you, man. At this point, I try and avoid, to ignore birthdays. But on the LIV Golf PGA, I mean, the PGA is still going to fight this tooth and nail. I mean, they're in court now. And the challenge here is this may be the high watermark for LIV in terms of participation, because, we don't know what the majors are going to do going forward. And with each passing tournament, those folks on the LIV tournament aren't earning rankings points on the PGA. So they don't qualify for a lot of these things. So unless you've won or placed in a major, you're probably not invited back. And the Masters is independent. They can do what they want, and they decided to do this. But it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting if we get to see any LIV players as the time goes on, in these tournaments, because you know the PGA is gonna advocate strongly that they freeze out all LIV players.
Yeah, that's a good point about the rankings points. I think they will figure that out. I think the people want to see that. I think the people want to see what they saw this weekend. And so if the PGA just wins out, you don't see these guys in where their Royal Liverpool is, where the British Open is. I mean, if you start to not see guys that would be making 3 of the top 6 spots in these major tournaments, they're less attractive to watch, like, period. So I hope they figure that out. I think they will.
I have in terms of what the PGA will do. I think you're more optimistic than I am. I think the PGA is going to try and, is no holds barred. They're going to try and they're not going to give any quarter, not a single inch.
No, and that's a business thing, and I sort of understand that. But we saw a much better product with all these guys involved, and so
it was an exciting weekend. I wished it would have been closer down the end, but yeah, LIV Golf has to go out and continue to improve and do an exciting project and build its brand too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the farther removed we get, Phil really blew it up early on. A lot of his comments. As we know, Greg Norman is not, doesn't give people the warm and fuzzies. But the farther we get from sort of the spokespeople or people talking about it, and the more we can get into the product and see what it is and see if it's exciting and if it can sustain and build, the happier I'll be. I mean, because it can be fun to watch. And a lot of the players like the team concept that LIV has. So we'll see. But LIV has to build its brand and have some success if it's going to be a real competitor for PGA, because PGA is not going to give an inch.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have to be forced to give an inch.
Yeah. And if I'm Jay Monahan from the PGA, I'm probably taking a very similar playbook, not as they did at the beginning, because that did not help them much. But I think now you're trying to give no territory away to LIV. Richard, we should try to get somebody from LIV on this podcast. Although I'm sure a lot of our listeners would be like, please don't do that. We want to hear more about Saudi Arabia and less about LIV Golf. But if you look at, Richard, when we do some prep for these episodes, because we have our newsletter, we take basically our newsletters and, 6 of them a week, and we aggregate them, and you can see trends form. And that's sort of how we figure out topics. LIV Golf, not for our newsletter, but for all headlines, it's like 30% of all headlines relates to LIV Golf about Saudi Arabia. It's unbelievable. I mean, it's because there's so much sports press. So this is a huge deal in the sporting world, and people that focus on Saudi Arabia are like, maybe less LIV Golf, but it's a really fascinating topic. Richard, we have a great expert on sports washing and Saudi Arabia sporting ambitions coming up in the coming weeks joining us. That will be a really interesting topic. Sort of takes a deeper look at it than just the hot take on quote unquote sports washing. So we're excited for that conversation. But
yeah, that'll be good.
Yeah. And just last point, I think LIV focus on the product, completely agree with that. The product now is not terrific. It's really hard to watch on the CW. Is it the CW?
That's right.
Yeah, the CW. So like that app on my TV is not great. They went to a playoff a few weeks ago and it just cut off. Oh, last thing I want to mention, I want to give a shout out to my buddy Justin. Lives down the street from me here. He was 20 feet away from that tree that fell over at the Masters. He said
really?
He said he had to move or it would have killed him.
Wow.
So congrats on still being alive, Justin.
You go, Justin.
Go. Yeah. Sent me a photo and everything. I was like, wow, that's
exactly
pretty good way to go though. In the Masters, you're hallowed ground. So Yella number